Welcome back to the Final Drive podcast, episode number 5. I'm McCord Geis, and as we always do, alongside me is Ty Kosei, Caden Strickland, Carter Croft, and Will, and Will Hayes. And so we're going to kick off episode 5 by first admiring Cox hat, but we're gonna actually get things started off though. Obviously today the NFL schedule came out for all the teams, and there are some really great games that we are all looking forward to when they happen. I'll kick it over to Ty to get us started off with the games that he was going to cover.
Yeah, so I just kind of wanted to cover one game real quick. Week 1, Joe Burrow is going to face off in Los Angeles against the Chargers and Justin Herbert if he starts. So that should be interesting. And who do you guys have actually winning that game?
I think I probably have the Bengals. I think the Bengals are actually maybe a more talented team. I think Burrow's the real deal, and I think he'll show out. Ty, do you think that I wanted to talk about this though? Like, do you think that Herbert will start, or will Tyrod get in week 1?
I mean, that's going to come down to what they decide. But in my opinion, I think Herbert should get the start. And if things aren't looking good in the first half, then I think you got to bring in the veteran talent like Tyrod Taylor. But another thing about that game is how do you guys think the Chargers fan base will actually show up in this new stadium?
I think it'll be about 50-50 with half Chargers fans, half, other teams' fans, because I feel like the Chargers haven't really established their fan base in LA yet. But with all the new talent that they have, they should be able to grow their fan base in the new stadium and hopefully over the next few years have more fans show up.
Yeah, I think we touched on this.
Go ahead.
I think we touched on this in one of the previous episodes. They share the city with the Rams, and I think that the Chargers now have the more exciting team with the additions that they made in free agency and in the draft, like Justin Herbert. I think that's going to bring a new life to the Chargers, and they're going to have more fans.
I agree.
I think it'll be a packed house for game 1. That's going to be really exciting, especially with the new uniforms, which I think will be absolutely fire.
Yeah,
going back to the results of the game, though, Croc and the rest of you guys, I guess, who do you have winning that game?
For me, I feel like that's definitely a toss-up because if both rookie quarterbacks start, you really don't know who's going to come out, on fire, ready to play. So I feel like it comes down to the defenses, and I'd definitely say the Chargers defense is a lot more talented than the Bengals at the moment. And it's an away game for Burrow, so maybe he has some first game. Both quarterbacks probably have first game nerves, but the home crowd can pump up Herbert to push him over the Bengals.
Yeah, I absolutely love the Chargers defense and their addition of Kenneth Murray in the draft. I feel like he's definitely a sleeper pick for defensive rookie of the year. And so I feel like he's going to have a big year as a linebacker for the Chargers and just be a solid addition to that defense.
I really like the Bengals' new revamped offense led by Joe Burrow. I think Joe Burrow's legit, and he's going to be a stud in the league. But I'm still not sold on their defense, just like all y'all. I think the Chargers just have the better overall team, and they'll end up getting the dub.
Yeah. I wanted to also say that Kenneth Murray might have been the perfect guy for the Chargers to take in the draft. Hayes, what games were you going to cover?
So I had 3 that I wanted to highlight. So the first one being the opening matchup of the 2020 season between the Kansas City Chiefs and Houston Texans. So obviously this is a divisional round rematch from last year, and I think it's really interesting because, we all know that the Texans blew that, 24-0 lead that they had in the second quarter. And they blew that to Mahomes and the Chiefs. And
almost as big as a 25-point lead.
Well, yeah, and Bill O'Brien hasn't been the same since.
Yeah, and I mean, it'll definitely be a worse matchup this year because the Texans, just by losing DeAndre Hopkins, have gotten significantly worse on offense at least. But Mahomes versus Watson is always a show, and the two quarterbacks always you know, put on a show whenever they play each other. So
Yeah, I don't feel like the loss of Hopkins is going to hurt the Texans as much as people think, because Deshaun Watson has the ability to make his receivers much better than they actually are, and he's very good about spreading the ball around to different receivers. Like, for example, last year, the Texans' leading tight end had come into that season as a reserve tight end, and Watson utilized him to his utmost capability, using his size and making him into a solid player for the offense. So I feel like Watson.
Let me interrupt you for a second there. I'm a little confused. Are you saying that DeAndre Hopkins was only good because of Deshaun Watson?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that it won't hurt them because Deshaun Watson is good at like making his receivers better. Like,
so you don't think it'll hurt them to
DeAndre
lose
Hopkins was still an amazing receiver, but that was
you don't think it'll hurt them to
helped
lose a Pro Bowl
Deshaun.
top 5 receiver?
The number one receiver.
I don't.
No.
It'll hurt them, but it won't hurt them like severely. I still think they'll be a winning team.
do they make the playoffs though?
No, I
Okay.
think they'll be borderline.
It's like
So therefore, it is hurting them because they're not making the playoffs.
Yeah, but it's not like they're going to go into rebuilding mode just because they lost Hopkins.
No one said that.
When Croc said that, I looked over to Caden and Ty, and we all had the same reaction of like, wait, what? I really disagree with that, to be honest. Like, I think losing – I take that back, though. Losing the number 2 receiver in the NFL is like not only – he might not have put up maybe the numbers that Croc might think of a number. I don't know really what he's thinking there. But, like, a thing that you have to like remember is that that's taking away like the number 1 cornerback, and that took away like a whole half of the field to just have DeAndre Hopkins on that side. Because when you lose a guy like that, you lose not only do you lose like a star player, but you lose some of like the firepower, maybe the fear that defenses have of your offense. And I think that also plays a big part. And I think that DeAndre Hopkins leaving is actually going to be like a huge part of the Texans offense next year.
Yeah, I agree with you there, McCord. I feel like the presence of DeAndre Hopkins, really added that extra almost cushion for the other receivers, where safeties, they would probably be more likely to go to DeAndre Hopkins' route and help out that rather than maybe a Will Fuller or another player on the Texans. And therefore, that's why they're open, and that's why Deshaun Watson is given those opportunities. So I feel like his loss will really make an impact. And I don't really know if I understand trading him for David Johnson, but maybe we'll save that for another day.
So
I want to touch on the trade for David Johnson a little bit. I think that's really an underrated part of the Texans offseason. Of course, it wasn't a good trade for them because Hopkins is just a complete game changer. But David Johnson, people are forgetting what he did a few years back.
I agree. But
I mean, he's had a lot of injuries since, and he's just not the same player now as he was 3 years ago. So,
hey, he's still better than Carlos Hyde.
I mean,
fair point.
That's a debate. I had Carlos Hyde on my fantasy team last year.
Bro, you cannot
So,
argue that
Croc,
Carlos
Croc,
Hyde is
how did
better.
you
You
trade
cannot
him? How did
argue.
you
Joe Mixon?
How did you do in fantasy last year, Croc?
Hyde.
Croc, what was your record in
I had
fantasy?
a down year, but I still have a championship.
That's what I
Croc,
thought.
you can't compare someone who at one point in his career was arguably the best running back in the NFL to someone who's mostly been a backup his entire career in Carlos Hyde. Okay, but
we're gonna move on to the next couple games, but before we do, I just want to make sure we all remember the video of DeAndre Hopkins crossing up that Redskins receiver or cornerback. I don't remember who that was, but I just want to remember that video.
There's just so many DeAndre Hopkins highlights that make him a game changer.
I watched that video last night, and I wanted to point that out. Okay, so why don't we move over to Caden? Caden, what games did you want to talk about?
I wanted to point out the Christmas Day game between the Saints and the Vikings. We all know the bad blood between the two teams because of what happened in the playoffs those two times with the Stephon Diggs, Minnesota Miracle, and last year when Kyle Rudolph beat him in overtime. I think that should be really interesting game. They're two of the top teams in the NFC. Both have a really good shot to make the playoffs. I love what the Vikings did in the draft. I'm a big fan of the Justin Jefferson pick. I think he should have been taken a lot earlier,
Agreed.
and he's going to make a big difference. I still have the Saints winning the game. Who do you guys have?
I agree. I think I have the Saints winning this one. I feel like I don't necessarily know if the Vikings will have a fantastic year. I think they will have an okay year, kind of wild card type team because of the loss of Stephon Diggs. I mean, the addition of Justin Jefferson is great and all, but I feel like he's going to have to take like maybe a year or two to reach a higher elite status. But that's just my opinion.
This game is really interesting to me because it's the first Friday game in the NFL since 2009. And I mean, I wasn't a huge fan of the NFL at the time because I was so young, but it's just, I've never had the NFL on a Friday. It's just really interesting to me. And then also, I feel like this game will be more of a toss-up than you guys are giving it, or like making it out to be. Because the Saints are going to be coming off a game against the Kansas City Chiefs at home, which is going to be really tough for them. And then to have to plan for a shortened, or they have a shorter amount of time to plan for the Vikings as they play on Friday. I mean, it could get bad just because of the planning time.
See, Will, I think the difference maker in this game truly, though, is going to be the Superdome as an advantage. I mean, you're going to have it's probably going to be packed due to Christmas, and I feel like you're going to have family and friends flying in for Christmas that are going to go to this game. And I feel like it's going to be fully packed with Saints fans, and I feel like that's really going to make the difference and basically kind of help the Saints, even though they're not having as much time to recover.
Yeah,
That'd be
I
a
just
heck of a
want to touch
Christmas
on
present.
that. But do y'all think that fans will be allowed at NFL games by the time the season starts?
It's really hard to tell.
That's
right
a
now.
good question.
Yeah.
It's a sad thought, but like
Yeah.
realistically,
That will be a question later on in the summer when that really comes to fruition and that's being decided.
More details come.
We're really going to have to wait and see because we really can't tell right now.
I could maybe see a fanless preseason, but I feel like maybe come regular season we might have a couple maybe limited fans or certain restrictions.
It's definitely going to be limited.
That'll all come with time.
Yeah.
It's not going to be packed. They'll probably
also,
do like 2 seats in between, 1 or 2 seats in between.
I think also thing you got to think about is like how different. This is totally. I mean, we can get into this later on, but I guess just to put a thought in your head, like how different will like just sports attending be like just in general afterward? Like, is everyone just going to be packed in like normal to think about? Like, just thinking about like the impact that this has had. I don't know. That's definitely a question for next time. But Croc, why don't we move on to your
interesting
games?
theories on that.
Well, we
Save
can
'em.
touch in. I would love to hear those theories on a later episode.
McCord, let me interrupt you for a second. I think Will had 2 more games he wanted to talk about
Yeah.
real quick.
Yeah. I'll just touch on them real quick so Croc can go. But 2 other games. I feel like the Saints are involved in a lot of big games this year. And I try to not be biased with this one or with these picks, but I feel like they are monumental games. So the first one is the Saints versus the Bucks, Week 1. Brady's first game as a Buck. Gronk coming back. I just feel like that's a really big game. And then the first game in Las Vegas, Saints Raiders, Week 2. I just thought, being the first game in Las Vegas, it should be highlighted.
That's
Yeah,
gonna-
that'll be the one time I cheer for the Saints Week 1. I want to see the Saints destroy Tom Brady because, as you know, I'm a Falcons fan, and I probably hate Tom Brady more than anyone else in the NFL. So,
Dude, that Raiders game is gonna be, God, that pregame is gonna be wild. I bet in
That
Vegas,
stadium is crazy.
it's crazy, dude. It's gonna be like, it's gonna be parties just like everywhere. It's gonna be crazy. Those were 2 good games, though. Will definitely the Saints are definitely involved in a lot of big games, and they're also going to be definitely a team to watch out for the Super Bowl. Croc, what games did you want to highlight?
So I was going to highlight some of the Thanksgiving games this year. I feel like the matchups aren't nearly as good as other years, but I'll still talk about them. First game of the day, you've got Texans-Lions. Lions play every year, which is pretty disappointing because they're a terrible franchise.
That's a good one.
It's going to be a garbage bowl in that one. I mean, I feel like the Texans will end up winning, but it's two teams kind of trying to figure out their identity. So anything can happen, but Texans will probably win that game. And then you got Redskins, Cowboys. This one I find to be more interesting because I could really see a scenario where Dak becomes a distraction for the Cowboys and causes them to lose more games than they probably should. And it'll be interesting to see how Chase Young gels with that Redskins defense. And I feel like if the Redskins defense can be good, and as long as their offense is just average, they can, surprise some people this year and maybe have a better record than people think. So that'll be an interesting game. And then to cap it off, you have the Ravens-Steelers. That's always been a great matchup in the AFC North. And but I mean, the Ravens, they just have so much firepower on that team. I just feel like they'll be too much for the Steelers. But I definitely feel like the Steelers will still be a good team next year. They were able to succeed without Ben Roethlisberger last year. So it'll be interesting to see how they can do with him back.
Yeah, I wanted to actually go back to the Redskins. Dwayne Haskins has been one of those guys that have been thrown around as like he could have a breakout year this year. What do you think about his chances this season?
I'm not as high on him as other quarterbacks, but he played well at Ohio State, so he'll just have to prove that he can do that in the NFL and, just be good for the Redskins because the Redskins really haven't had a great quarterback in a while. So
I liked Dwayne Haskins coming out of
RG3.
college. And I feel like he was put into like not a great situation. I mean, he sat behind Keenum for most of the year, and then he came in and really didn't play well. I mean, he threw just under 10 touchdowns and just under 10 interceptions. But I mean, I feel like people give him a ton of flack for like virtually no reason. I mean, he's a rookie quarterback. He's going to make mistakes, and then the weapons around him weren't the greatest anyway. I mean, like his
Terry McLaurin was their best. He's their best
their
guy?
receivers
Their receivers are trash.
And I feel like people don't talk about that enough. It's like the Redskins need someone. Need another playmaker at the receiver position. I mean, like I feel like McLaurin could be a star in the league, and I feel like he's very underrated. But they need another guy opposite of him. McLaurin will come into his own this year, I'm assuming. I think he'll have over 1,000 yards this year.
Yeah.
But they need another guy opposite of him.
Yeah, let me touch on that.
I actually have a quick question about the Redskins. What do you guys think about the Redskins running back situation? I mean, Darius Geis has been hurt the past couple of years. Do you think he'll be the guy to kind of lead the Redskins running back, or will it be more of a veteran or a different presence?
I'm not sold on it at all. Like you said, we've never really seen Darius Geis play, and so we don't really know what to expect from him if he is healthy next year. I'm not big on Adrian Peterson. He's trash right now. He's like 100 years old, and they just traded Trent
He still
Williams.
has some juice left.
Hey,
in
Kate,
him.
how old is Frank Gore then?
Oh, he's trash too. He's like 100 as well.
Hey, you gotta
It's all
respect.
but
You gotta
one
respect
running
the
back.
third. You gotta respect the third all-time
Hey,
leading rusher.
My
in the
man
league.
is like the
I
Yoda
do
of the
respect him.
NFL.
He's just irrelevant now.
Yeah,
Like
Gore.
That's
Peterson-
another
Peterson
reason
is-
not to draft Le'Veon Bell in fantasy.
Not irrelevant, Cade.
Peterson is still putting up not big numbers, but good numbers.
Yeah.
And and then
Good enough.
another thing that I disagreed on you with is you got to remember with Geis is that he's in this year he's going into the same situation that Dalvin Cook was last year. Dalvin Cook had been hurt 2 years in a row, his rookie season and his sophomore season, and then his junior season he came in and was a star. He made the Pro Bowl. Was he second team All Pro or did he make an All Pro team?
He had a great season. Let's just put it.
Yeah. Okay. He had a
Yeah.
great season, and I mean, like Geist is now in that position. And I'm not saying it's going to happen to him, but I mean, like you've seen now you see that
Yeah.
just because this one player's had injuries for the beginning of his career doesn't mean that's going to define his entire career.
Yeah, I
It's
agree
like
with that.
it's like you took the words out of my mouth because I literally had Dalvin Cook pulled up on my phone. I was going to talk about that. That's exactly what I was going to say, and I totally agree with you. I think we got to give Darius guys time. I think he's got so much potential. I think he could be the guy. You know. Also, shout out to RG3 for being the last really good Redskins quarterback. Okay, so going into the games that I was going to talk about, I had the Packers versus Buccaneers highlighted. It's going to be in Tampa. Brady versus Rodgers, of course. No one really knows the full Rodgers and Packers situation, like with the front office and stuff. But that's going to definitely be a Brady versus Rodgers has always been fun. It's always been a back and forth kind of battle. And then the other game that I wanted to just touch on here was the Bengals versus Dolphins, Week 13. Could potentially be Tua versus Joe Burrow, which would be an insane game to watch. It's just we don't know if they're gonna play if they're gonna play Tua or not. Which I don't know. I'll leave that up to discussion. What do you guys think about Tua? Do you think he'll play?
I don't think Tua should play, but I really hope he does. I want to see him come out and play Burrow because I feel like they've had the history in college, and I feel like that is another one of those like upcoming really electric QB rivalries in the league. Now we've got things like Mahomes and Lamar, Mahomes and Watson. You got like Russell Wilson and Kyler Murray is another one that I think is going to be really good this year. And I think Burrow and Tua in a couple of years, that's going to be a matchup that people will look forward to whenever they play.
Yeah, definitely. So we were gonna touch on some free agent players that were remaining, but we won't go too into detail. We'll definitely go into that next episode. But just some guys that we thought were important to highlight was Cam Newton, Jadeveon Clowney, and Logan Ryan. Was there anything like really important that you guys wanted to say right now about those
I
guys?
think the only thing we really need to say about Cam right now is that he did say he's open to being a backup next year. And I feel like that could kind of fuel a discussion next episode of where do you think he could go? Where do you think he could back up? So I feel like that'll be a great discussion next episode.
Yeah, and an interesting thing to point out is that I feel like the Cowboys most likely would have signed Cam Newton if he had said that he would be a backup earlier, because I feel like he's a better option compared to a guy like Andy Dalton. But I feel like Cam just needs the right fit. I mean, he's really taken a fall from grace after winning MVP. So he just needs a place where he can kind of reboot like Jameis is with the Saints.
Well, Croc, I'd say even like I actually really like that Cowboys point, and
I do too. Yeah.
taking it a step further, I'd take him over Dak. I mean, like that might be a bit of a hot take, but I mean, y'all clearly seem to agree with me.
I'm with you. Yeah.
But I would very easily take Cam Newton over Dak right now. I know he's had his fair share of injuries in the past couple of years, but I would take Cam over Dak at the moment.
I'm
not really sure
over most quarterbacks in the league.
I'm not really sure I don't know for sure if Dak is a better player than if Cam is a better player than Dak, but I think Dak is such a distraction to the locker room that Cam might be just a better guy to have.
I think both of them are kind of distractions in the locker room a little bit, but I feel like Cam would be more drilled in and focused. But I feel like the Cowboys, if they had an opportunity to have them both in a locker room and kind of see who can outperform, who has less of a locker room like issues, then I feel like that would have been really beneficial to the Cowboys.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll switch into the next thing. One thing that we did last week that was really successful that you guys really seem to like was the head-to-head battle between Caden and Croc. And I'm going to swing it over to Ty. This is sort of his thing. So we'll let Ty explain what we're going to do. If you didn't see last week's episode, which you definitely should, I'll let Ty take it away.
Okay, so this week's matchup, based on our random wheel generator, is actually McCord, and Croc is going to go again and defend his title, voted on by the fans and us judges. So if you don't know what the structure is, we'll discuss. We'll put up a discussion question, and we'll give a 2-minute like almost argument period where each person can kind of go back and forth, and then at the end they'll both have 30 seconds uninterrupted to state their final case, and then the judges will vote on who they think wins, and we'll also put like on our story, who do you guys think won? And that way the fans can vote, and make sure to leave it down in the comments if it's on YouTube. So, and there'll be three rounds, so that way we have a winner. Let's go ahead and hop into the first question, which is Brian Gutekunst, or the Packers GM, is he a bad GM or a good GM? This should be interesting. And your 2 minutes starts now.
I'm going to go ahead and start it off first because Croc is clearly not paying attention. Brian Gutekunst is a good GM. Did he have the draft class that people were expecting? No, he didn't, okay? Maybe he didn't take a wide receiver. But he said in his press conference that the receivers that he saw left would not have made an immediate impact on the team. And so he thought that he'd rebuild for the future, take a guy like Jordan Love, who they think is the guy after Aaron Rodgers. Another thing is they made the signings of Preston Smith. They made the signings of Zadarius. How can I take it? I can't take you seriously. They made the signings of Zadarius Smith. He made the signing of Preston Smith. He totally revamped the culture around the Packers. He took the Packers from multiple losing seasons in a row to a winning season. You can't base if a guy's a good GM or a bad GM based off of one draft that could end up being a great draft looking back down 6 years in the future.
Okay. When you take a first-round pick, you're not looking 6 years into the future. You need to be looking now for an impact player. And Gutekunst gets an F for that pick in my book, which is why
Well,
he's
Croc,
trash.
if that's your entire argument, Croc, you don't really got anything. You're not gonna mention at all about how he took them from a losing record.
And he decides not to take any receivers either.
Multiple losing seasons.
Even though they have one of the
To the
worst
NFC
receivers
Championship
in
game,
the
Croc.
NFL.
Rodgers was hurt.
Hey, are you in here? Are you in this debate, Will? I didn't think so, but I appreciate the help. You are correct.
However, Lazard, Jake
Croc,
Kumaro.
would you, as a Falcons fan, you might not understand what it's like to actually win many seasons as a fan.
I understand what it's
But when
like
you
to
get to
beat
the
y'all
NFC
in the
Championship
NFC
game, you just
Championship.
When you go from a losing season,
All right, that is
Hey,
time. I'm
NFC
going to interrupt
Championship
y'all.
game, you are
McCord. All right. We'll actually start the 30 seconds with let's go ahead and start it with Croc. What do you have to say, Croc?
All right. Well, first of all, Gutekunst is trash.
why? Explain why.
He is extreme. He totally blew the Packers' future with this draft. They didn't add anything to their offense, first of all. A.J. Dillon, they didn't need a running back. They didn't need a quarterback. And they didn't address one of their most gaping needs, which is a wide receiver.
And
GM's
that is
job,
time,
which
Croc.
is
I'm
add
sorry. Your time
to
is
the
up.
team.
Croc,
Okay.
your time is up. And McCord, your 30 seconds starts now.
Okay, so I don't think there's really much I need to say, man. What Aaron Rodgers said it best, where you're gonna be one of the best teams if you don't think that you need to totally rebuild in free agency or the draft. And frankly, I'm gonna go back to the winning part, man. What it comes down to is if your team wins. And clearly, Brian Gutekunst and Matt LaFleur, don't forget about Matt LaFleur being hired. That's sort of been a big deal as well. When you win games, you're gonna be considered a good GM.
And that is time. I'm sorry, McCord. All right, it's time to take it to the judges. Caden, why don't you start us off?
Man, this wasn't even close. McCord won in a landslide.
All right, Will, what do you say?
I want to give it to Croc just for the whiteboard. For those of you listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, Carter wrote on his whiteboard that it's trash. Just for some context as to why I'm laughing so much. But McCord wins this one. Croc, your argument was horrible.
Yeah.
Just turning your camera to your whiteboard is not gonna help you. McCord
It's
made
all right. I
McCord
got
made good.
McCord beat for the next 2 questions.
All right, I appreciate the effort, Croc, but I'm also gonna have to give this one to McCord in a
Bring
landslide.
out the brooms. Give me the sweep.
Clean,
Come on.
clean
McCord,
sweep for
part of
McCord in round
McCord's
1.
argument was about Aaron Rodgers, which is a part of the third question for those listening. All right, we're gonna go ahead and work our way into question number 2, which was actually in our before the discussion. This actually got a little heated, especially because McCord's background. Which stadium is better, the Mercedes-Benz Stadium or Lambeau Field? And your 2 minutes starts now.
Lambeau Field, the greatest place to watch a sporting event, maybe outside of like Fenway Park or something. It is the greatest place in sports. I have not been to a better venue. It is the most historic place. Crockett's going to write down on his whiteboard, which is going to be his only argument, Mercedes-Benz looks nice. Okay, maybe they got a big hole in the roof. Congratulations. Great job. But you know what happens inside that stadium? Losing. No one cares about losing. But another thing is, just the town of Green Bay itself is one of the coolest places in all of sports. The trash cans are green and yellow. The fire hydrants are green and yellow. The mayor's office is green and yellow.
I
The
don't
Packers
give a
from
damn
all around
about fire
this place behind
hydrants.
me. The greatest place, the greatest piece of turf in the NFL is right behind me, and the Green Bay Packers Stadium. Like, what do the Falcons just have? Like, it looks cool. Like okay, maybe it's modern, but for me, like, history is everything. And frankly, when you have the most historic place in the NFL, where it has been in the same piece of property since 1966 when the Packers won the first Super Bowl. You can't take that, and even before that at Citi Field, which is right down the road. They rebuilt Lambeau Field, but it's still within a certain block of each other. And
Rocker,
you
you
can't
gonna
ignore
say
how
anything?
historic the place is.
Come on,
No, man,
Croc.
I'm
Croc,
making an
let's-
argument on my whiteboard right
Bro, that's not an
Croc,
argument.
you have
I'll
30
keep going.
seconds.
I will
Watch this.
keep going. The Atlanta Falcons Stadium, while it looks cool,
Lambeau Field,
Brock, why don't you
It's-
read it out?
a college stadium, expensive concessions,
Okay. Do you know why?
expensive tickets.
Do you know
while
why it's
Mercedes-Benz
expensive?
has the cheapest concessions in the NFL and
That is
better
not
quality
no.
concessions. Giant
No!
scoreboard
He is right there.
and
He's right
reasonable ticket prices. I'm not going to pay $3,000 to go see a game.
But guess what? Do you know why?
College
Croc, it's
stadium,
because the
no
Packers
matter
win.
how much
Time, that is
history there
time,
behind
McCord.
the
The
stadium.
Packers win,
Hey,
and that's why they're expensive.
Settle down. We're actually our 30 seconds this time with McCord because he is so heated. I don't know if he can stand himself. All right, ready?
Your
2, 1,
argument
your
is
30
that
seconds starts now.
Your argument is that the concessions are bad. The reason the tickets are priced so high is because the Packers win games. It's a cooler place to watch a game at, and frankly, the experience is just better as a whole. When you win games, your tickets should be higher. It's a smart business move. Would you pay more money to watch the Falcons go 7-9 or the Packers go 13-3? I don't know. You tell me.
I
I'd rather
wouldn't
watch
want
the
to pay
Packers go 13-3 and watch one of the most historic places in the game in all of sports. I mean, I don't know what else I can say. Plus, how can you not ignore Curly's Bar? That's a great place to hang out. They got some awesome the brats. If you're gonna make an argument about bad concessions,
Falcons
the
got
brats
a
are some
whole
of the
park
best.
around
The
the stadium
tailgating,
that you can hang
everything
out
about it is
at
so much
before the
better than the
game.
Atlanta Falcons. Atlanta Falcons are garbage. So bad. Experience is bad. Team is bad. I've been to the stadium. Blows compared to Lambeau Field. Get out of here. That's all I have to say. I rest my case.
Croc, you better start speaking, bro.
I think
I'm
Ty,
gonna speak.
I
I'm
think
gonna speak.
it looks
You
like
gotta
Ty's.
take it from the
It looks like Ty-
experiences of Will and Ty. I mean, they would definitely tell you how great the experience is in Mercedes-Benz, even though they're a Saints fan. So you've got a Halo board. No other Halo board has been done in the NFL. Even a $3 billion stadium with the Rams, the Halo board is still not as big as the Falcons one. The Falcons were pioneers in new scoreboard technology with their new stadium. And you've got an Oculus roof that opens up like no other stadium in the world. So, I mean, you've got everything is there. You've got great restaurants, cheap concessions because our owner is a great owner and he's not greedy. And he keeps tickets reasonable. He doesn't allow them to go above a certain price because he has
Because no one would
loyal
come to the
season
games
ticket
if they were
holders
priced higher.
because he doesn't need to upcharge people who are
Because
traveling
no one would
hundreds
come.
of
McCord,
miles to go to
stop.
a Lambeau Field game.
McCord and
All right.
Croc, that is the end of
Oh my
that question. Will, let's throw it to you for your first decision.
So my opinion on so my vote is for the argument, not for my opinion, because in my opinion, Mercedes-Benz is like all the way up here above Lambo. But I got to give it to McCord just for the argument. Croc, you took too damn long writing on your stupid whiteboard. I don't understand why you just don't start talking. You could have won that if you had talked more.
Caden, what do you have to say?
McCord did a much better job of presenting his
He
argument.
wins.
Even though I do agree with McCord a little bit more than Croc, but it should have been a lot closer than it was. McCord once again wins in a landslide.
Croc, you literally had the easier thing to argue for.
I would also like to shout out my dog, whose name is also Lambo, after this great stadium. That's all I'm going to say.
I'm going to have to go ahead and go with McCord. His argument was just better. It doesn't matter my opinion on the subject. It's just McCord's argument was significantly better. Croc, you really need to up your game in that 2-minute period. And this is surprising to see the reigning champ of episode 1 fall already, but could he redeem himself for pride on question number 3?
Croc, don't get fully swept here.
Yeah. Question
At
number
least
3
get
is
one vote out of the three of us.
Question number 3. Should Aaron Rodgers remain a Packer for the duration of his contract? Starting with the 2 minutes now.
No.
This is so easy,
Okay.
man. I'm going to let
Aaron
Croc. I'll let you go.
Rodgers, he is a GM that's refusing to add pieces around him. And as a quarterback, who wouldn't want better receivers to throw to? Devontae Adams isn't going to last forever. If he gets hurt, you literally have no one behind him for Aaron Rodgers to throw to.
Your
I mean, if
argument is that if Devontae Adams gets hurt, one thing that Aaron Rodgers has said Aaron Rodgers has said over and over and over.
City, which is literally a suburb in the middle of nowhere.
Which is what makes it awesome. But Aaron Rodgers has said, Croc, shut
If
up.
you're Aaron Rodgers, why not go to
I'm
a
going to
place
speak.
that's, like, warm?
Aaron Rodgers has said
'Cause he
over and
played in
over and over again that he
California
wants
for
to play
college.
until his
Like, come
40s
on.
in Green Bay. And when he says that, he says legacy is so important to him. We all saw what happened to Brett Favre. If the question was, will Aaron Rodgers stay? Maybe that answer would be different. But
Aaron
if it
Rodgers
should,
has already
Aaron Rodgers
established
should
his
stay in Green
legacy
Bay.
in Green Bay. Why not be like Tom Brady and go to someplace warm where you can actually finish off your career?
Because Aaron Rodgers
and
has
just-
said himself that legacy is important to him. And when
I'm sure
look at
it's
what happened
important
to
to
Brett
Tom
Favre's
Brady
legacy
too, but
when
what
he
did he
left Green
do?
Bay.
He left
out
New
my God.
England. I mean,
When you
come
look
on.
at what happened to Brett Favre's legacy when he left Green Bay, it went in the trash
Phillip
can.
Rivers, great legacy with the
No one
Chargers.
cares
What did
about
he do?
Phillip Rivers.
Go to the
Phillip Rivers
Colts.
is half
Why
the quarterback
can't Aaron
Rodgers
Rodgers
is.
do the same thing? I mean, I don't understand.
100%
no
of
reason
Phillip
for him
Rivers
to
is a
stay
fifth of what
when
Aaron
his
Rodgers
GM's
is.
not adding pieces
Your
around him.
argument
Why
makes
not
no
go to a
sense,
place
Croc.
that's willing to
He
add
should stay in Green Bay because he'd
receivers
be the
and running
greatest
backs,
Packer of all
or
time.
doesn't want to get a quarterback behind you. Like, come on. If you're a GM, you got to trust the QB that you have. I don't see the Patriots drafting the
Okay,
next
Croc.
Tom Brady.
What
I
if
mean-
they trust Aaron Rodgers so much and that's why they didn't go after a receiver? They trust Aaron Rodgers. I said this multiple times. He elevates the players around him.
But trust only goes so far, so why not get a great receiver and elevate him to the status of a Hall of Fame receiver?
Croc, that is the end of your 2 minutes. And I think we're going to go back to McCord because I don't think he can contain himself once again. So, McCord, your 30 seconds starts now.
I'm going to go back to the question of will Aaron Rodgers stay? I don't know if he will. Okay, that's up for debate. Should he stay? 100%. It's Aaron Rodgers has said everything is about legacy to him. He said it multiple times. And he wants to play in Green Bay until he's 40. And he's been doing this. He's been on the Packers. He's been on the Packers for 15 seasons now. It's all about his legacy, man. If he goes out and wins, he knows this. He's talked about it with Pat McAfee. He's talked about it with multiple people. Should he stay? 100% because he'd be considered one of the greatest quarterbacks ever. To me, he's by far the greatest Packer of all time. No
If you
questions
told me
asked.
that
is
Tom
time,
Brady was
McCord.
going to
That is
leave the
time.
Patriots
Croc,
2 years ago,
Croc,
I would have
Croc,
told you
You
that you're
hate Tom
crazy.
Brady.
Hey. All right, guys. All right, Croc, your 30 seconds. I must say this is your opportunity to save yourself, but here comes your 30 seconds now.
Okay, so Tom Brady He had a team that was willing to add pieces around him, and he still left to go to Tampa Bay. So if you have if you have a GM that's not adding any pieces around you and is not setting you up for the future, why would you want to risk your future staying with a team with a mediocre offense, not adding receivers around him? I mean, come on.
And that is
I won't-
time, Croc.
No one wants to be in that
That is
situation.
time. All right. I'm going to send it to Will for this one to start off.
Croc, you got me. I give you my vote. I thought you're.
so bad.
No. Don't even start with me. I thought his points were better than yours, bro. Your only point, his legacy, bro. His legacy. I swear. That was your only point.
He said it multiple times.
Okay, Croc
the
made
fan- the
more
fans
points
love him.
than. I mean, like
McCord, let the judges judge.
I picked Croc.
All right.
That's a pity vote. Pity vote.
I think
That's not a
I'll
pity
go
vote.
and then I'll send it over to Caden.
Yeah.
I'm also going to have to give this one to Croc. McCord, your only point there was legacy. I feel like Croc actually had some valid points mixed in.
What
Though he
points
could
did
have focused
Croc
better
make?
on them, I feel like he had more valid points than you. Caden, what do you think?
That's a pity
All right.
vote.
I think
Pity.
I definitely agree more with Croc in the argument. McCord definitely he presented his argument better, but couldn't really make the points necessary to save himself. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to give it to Croc too.
Dude,
That
I
was
did
Caden
not
being
deserve to
nice,
get
or
I'll
this
you
take
vote.
it,
got
I'll take
absolutely
it.
destroyed on that
2-1,
one.
2-1.
You did not
But-
deserve the sweep there. Not with that. Not with
He did
that.
not
But
deserve
McCord-
the
I
sweep.
didn't-
That is terrible.
I didn't make the best arguments. I wasted my time on the whiteboard. but
Yeah, if you hadn't
I'm
done the
taking
whiteboard,
notes for the
yeah.
next battle that I face.
Okay,
So-
but
One and
so
one.
what's the points leaderboard? So McCord and Croc Croc, you have 3, right? So you're winning.
So we're
Yeah,
doing
so
we're doing
it-
points.
Yeah, for those who are listening in, we're gonna make a point system for the amount of rounds you win. I think that's what we decided on.
That's
So Croc, I think, has won 3 rounds, and Caden has won 1, I
Caden's
believe,
won 1, McCord's won
and
2,
McCord has won 2.
and then you and I haven't gone.
And we'll do a wheel decide to see who goes next episode, but we will not have the same matchups as going forward until everyone has played each other, and then we'll see where we go from there. Maybe a playoff format or something like that. But I guess I'll throw it over to McCord to close it out.
Yeah, definitely. No, that was actually a lot of fun. So normally the eyes, normally the videos. This is a longer one, but yeah, I think it's really entertaining. One more thing, it's Jersey Day. If everyone wants to show off their jerseys, just comment who has the best jersey. We got Oscar Robertson. Kaden might be the winner here, man. Vince
No,
Carter Raptors.
For the OG Vince.
last season with Vince Carter.
Oh,
Atlanta
Croc,
Hawks.
shut up. Those
Croc,
jerseys-
it's a Hawks.
Let's go.
This isn't even a basketball podcast. We could debate about a Vince Carter Hawks jersey or a Raptors Vince Carter jersey. Regardless.
Yeah, let us know down in the comments if you want us to do a couple episodes, maybe covering other sports or just kind of going off the rails a little bit. Just let us know if that's something y'all would be interested in hearing.
Yeah. All right, so that's gonna finish it up here for episode 5. I hope you all have enjoyed. This was definitely one of the more entertaining ones that I thought. I love the head-to-head thing. I think it's gonna be an awesome thing going forward. As always, everyone stay safe, wash your hands. Praying for all the doctors and the nurses out there. Thank you all for helping with the coronavirus. Stay safe, everybody. Thanks for listening. Go subscribe to us on YouTube. Go listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, literally anywhere you can find a podcast. We're there. So thank you guys all for listening. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.
See ya.